So if you spend time in any machinist groups, whether it's Facebook or forums, there is a common joke. They say you will spend as much, if not more, on tooling than you paid for your expensive Miller lathe. The reason it's funny is because it's true. Greetings, fellow DIYer, and welcome to my video. The first thing I want to address is two myths. If it's made in the United States, it's automatically better. And the second myth, conversely, if it's made somewhere other than the United States, it's automatically junk. There was a time when made in America really did mean something. It used to stand for quality in all levels, from the budget level all the way up to high-end stuff. And there are still some fantastic manufacturing companies making quality things in the United States. I'm not knocking buying local, and I'm not trying to tell you that if it's made in America, it's junk. What I am saying is it's not the hard and fast rule that it once was. A good example of this is 20 years ago, if you went to Harbor Freight, you were definitely buying lower quality import tools. But it was my experience, especially if you were buying bigger items like engine stands and bigger tools, bandsaw, that kind of thing, that with a little tinkering, a little modification, you could raise the quality yourself because the bones were good. The design was good, the materials were good, it was just the assembly that lacked a little bit of finesse. Nowadays, that's not even the case. I purchased 2 toolboxes for the machining corner of my shop. I paid $120 for a Craftsman toolbox made in America, and I spent $90 on a Harbor Freight toolbox. And the quality difference is mind-boggling. The Craftsman one, a lot smaller. The Harbor Freight unit, significantly bigger. On top of that, the quality difference, the physical quality, the steel on the Harbor Freight toolbox, thicker. The drawers for the Harbor Freight box, they open and shut a lot smoother than the Craftsman. So basically, a lesser box because it had a sticker on it that said, Made in America. What do you do if you're a hobby machinist? You want to have a lot of these goodies and gadgets because it helps with the hobby and it helps you to make things, but you don't want to pay a king's ransom. Well, I have several tricks that will allow you to purchase import tooling and not get screwed over. The first thing you have to do is take an honest look at your needs. If you are a hobby machinist who's just tinkering out in the garage, there's no agenda, there's no time frame, then time has less value. But if you're someone who is a hobby machinist but also uses your machine tools to make some money, you are machining things for other people and getting paid for it, then at that point, your time, the value, goes up. If you're equipping your shop with tools to become a full-time machinist, it's no contest. Spend the money up front, save yourself some time, have higher quality tools that are going to be more accurate and last longer. It's that simple. Also, depending on what your hobby is and what material you're working with. If you are building steam engines or clocks or anything that is got to have really tight tolerances, then you probably want better tools. If you're making jewelry and you're working with platinum, you don't want to make mistakes. So yes, get the tools that have the best, most minimum tolerance. For me, the division is at 1/1000th. If you are a precision machinist, hobby or otherwise, you want accuracy down to 1/1000th of an inch. Now, if you're like me and you're a fabricator, most times you can get away with 2 or 3 thousandths variance. Now, that doesn't work if you're making something that's a press fit or you're trying to fit bushings, things like that. There are times, even as a fabricator, where I've got to have tight tolerances. But just because my tooling is import doesn't mean that I can't get those tight tolerances. If you try and cut corners when you really do need the better tooling, you're going to regret it, and it's going to leave a bitter taste in your mouth. If you spend a bunch of money on something that's super accurate that you're never going to need that accuracy, you're just throwing your money away. So first and foremost, take a good look at what you plan on doing and make the correct decision based on that. The second tip is a lot of import tools that do have a little bit of run out or that do have issues can be fixed. When I first bought my quick change tool post, it was a piston style, and one of the tool holders that came with it would not slide down onto its mating surface. And the reason was that this distance was not machined correctly at the factory. Had I had a wedge tool post like I do now, it would not have been an issue. But at the time, being a piston, it did need to fit over the dovetails. But it was barely off. I mean, we're talking about 1/1000th of an inch. I mean, it was super close. So all I did is spent about 10 minutes and cleaned up the inside of the dovetail with a file. And that's all it took. It was super simple. I wasn't removing so much material that it totally changed the shape of this and made it so that it had lost accuracy. It was just a simple fix. And with a lot of import tools that have a slight issue, you can do that. A lot of times I see guys will be complaining about collets, and they'll say, oh yeah, it's got 3 thousandths run out. Well, if you take a close look at that collet, oftentimes the cause of the run out is a burr on one of these lines. All you're wanting to do is remove burrs from the slit. And in doing so, you will oftentimes get a collet like this that maybe is out by 2 or 3 thousandths down to a 1/1000th or 0 run out. Sometimes you cannot polish a turd. I ordered an ER32 collet chuck, and it had like 6 or 7 thousandths run out, and there was no fixing that. Basically what had happened is in the manufacturing process, the main block of steel that it was made of had shifted slightly, and the registration boss was off center. There was no fixing it. There was no taking it to the lathe and truing it up, because it was what registered on the spindle, and the moment you removed more material, it would have been sloppy. And there was nothing that I could do about it. But because of tip number 3, it wasn't a problem. If I am buying import tools, especially import tools that are expensive, I always get the ones that have free returns. It has been my experience with import tooling that it's actually, for the most part, made pretty well. With CNC machining and computers basically running all of these factories, as long as the original billet that they were working with stays true in the machine, the parts come out really, really close. Where import tooling lacks is quality control. Let's say they make 100 of them and 10 aren't any good. Something has slipped and there's a problem. There's usually not a lot of inspection to determine that. They just put it in a box and ship it out. And that's where people get burned on import tooling. So if you've ordered it from Amazon, AliExpress, Vevor, or eBay, make sure that you are ordering one that has free returns. Then all you're out is a little bit of time. Now, if it's a situation where it's a rush, you need that tooling today because you've got to get this project done, you probably want to spend a little more money and get something that is going to be for sure great right out of the box. But if you have the time to spend, go ahead and order it from eBay. Go ahead and order it from Amazon. When it comes in, thoroughly inspect it. Don't leave it on the shelf until you're ready to use it, because then your return window will have expired. Thoroughly inspect it, check it for run out, check it for issues. If it's good, you just saved a pile of money. If it's bad, A few clicks on your computer, you box it up, and away it goes. And then you try again. If you find that you get 2 or 3 really bad things from a specific manufacturer, that's a pretty good indication to stay away from that manufacturer. But my experience has been that it's not one manufacturer over another. It really comes down to not inspecting the tooling before it leaves the factory. And so by always purchasing it with free returns, you can easily return it and draw again. Now, don't get me wrong. I am not saying that this import tooling that I have, every single thing on this table is import tooling, is better than high quality precision tooling that costs thousands of dollars. I'm not trying to mislead you or convince you otherwise. But what I have here is all within about 1/1000th of an inch. And for what I'm doing, that's more than accurate enough. And the nice thing is, if you know that something has some accuracy issues, you can oftentimes get around them in the machining process. It may take a little more time. You may have to sneak up on it a little slower or adjust a little more or spend more time dialing whatever you're turning into the chuck. But usually you can still account for the slight error in the tooling with a little time. Which takes us back to the beginning. If you're a machine shop, if you are trying to make a living using these tools, buy once, cry once. Spend the money, get something that is going to last a lifetime and be perfect right out of the box. If you're a hobbyist on a budget like I am, nothing wrong with import tooling. Be prepared to occasionally tweak it to get it to work right. And always, 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 always make sure it has free returns. If you like what you've seen, please click like. If you'd like to see more, please subscribe. Thanks for watching.